I'm going to the TXT concert. JK, I already went. My throat is still sore after 2 weeks, so you can tell I had a good time. I wanted to make Taehyun's sweater to wear, and I could have crocheted it, but I wanted it to be more proper, more authentic. His is knit. So I learned how to knit, and then I'll also be sharing with you what I prefer, crochet or knitting. I use YouTube videos to learn, and I think I picked up everything within like an hour or two. Everything was pretty simple and easy. Like, I was super surprised, except for increasing. I'm still kind of confused, and I struggled with that. It just doesn't look good when I do it. I don't think I'm doing it right. The casting on that I learned for knitting is a bit annoying. So if you want to learn a different one, maybe that's the way to go. You leave a long tail, make your little slip knot, and then say I need to make 50 loops. It's super easy. So you just like, whoa, bam. Aye! So I use this end, wrap it around my thumb, stick it in there, twirl around. It's called a long tail cast on, so you can just look up tutorials for that. It's super easy, but the only thing is, like for this project that I'm working on, I had to cast on 146. I got to like 120 before I realized my tail was too short, and I had to start all over again. There's probably more ways to cast on, but I think this is a common one. It was the first thing that popped up when I searched in YouTube how to cast on anyway. So the stitches themselves are super easy. For this, it was a stocking net. Basically, you knit a row, and knitting just means you're putting it in this way, wrapping around. And then for the next round, you purl. Just doing the opposite. Instead of sticking it in this way, you're gonna stick it in this way. Ah, I'm so good at this already. Stop, what's happening? And that's how you end up with the V's in the front and the little bumpity bumps in the back, which is what Taehyun's shirt is. I just used bigger size needles so that it'd be more like holy. I think I used 8, but I honestly can't remember. I'm so sorry. But I'm making Bombcue's sweater next, which is basically the same thing. So, not next. One video after this, probably. Or after that. Soon! Don't be impatient. I didn't follow a pattern for this, mostly because I couldn't find one within a few seconds of searching for one. So I basically just made rectangles for everything. I did this for the sleeves, but they ended up too narrow for my big muscles. So I had to go back and redo the last quite a few rows so that I could increase a bunch. The front piece also required a bit more work because of the neck. I just watched this sweater tutorial to figure out how they did it, and it was pretty simple. So I just held this up against myself, looked in the mirror, and then kind of judged where the neckline should kind of be. And then I put 2 bobby pins to mark the neckline. And now I'm just gonna count either side and make sure there's an even amount on both shoulders, and if not, then I'll just adjust these 2 little pins a little bit. 24. I did it perfectly. There's 24 on this side, 24 on this side. Wowzers. What is these? All I have to do is knit this amount of stitches for the shoulder, move those onto another needle, and then cast off these middle stitches because we're done with them. That's the neck hole. And then we're gonna finish up this shoulder back and forth a few times, decreasing every time on this side to make the... I don't actually know how to stitch together 2 together. I'm assuming it's just literally putting 2 on your hook and stitching them together. Does that make sense? Then knit the next one, then pull this one over, pull the... like that? Is that casting off? Did I just cast off? I hope so. I was right, I should be watching it again, but I'm lazy. Oh, I forgot to transfer this! Oh no! No, 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 no! Dropping a stitch. Why is this so difficult? Haha! That's the right shoulder. Now I'm just gonna go back and forth, finish this. Yeah? What do you think? I think so. Then I sewed everything together and tried to distress it because Taehyun's is distressed. Which I also want to point out, brilliant idea. Like, choosing to do a distressed looking item as your first project, because there were holes that I did not intend. They came out of nowhere. I don't remember dropping stitches, but I obviously did. So it just takes off a lot of the stress because it's like, oh, well, it's supposed to look like that. Okay, so I've stitched them all together, all pieces, not very tidily, but I mean, it will do. We have less than 3 days to the concert. This is what we've got. And now we've got to rip it up. I do wish that the neck wasn't so wide. I also would have liked it longer, but like this way, you know, it's gonna be hot probably. This way I can like get some air. Yeah, I might make the neck a bit smaller. I would be a lot more comfortable with that. Ooh, this is warm. This is warm. Regrets? I don't know. The arm lengths are like the perfect length. I love this. Now we're gonna destroy the whole thing. I watched someone do this, and when they took it apart, all the strings look like noodles. I'm hoping that since I only just knit this, that it won't be all noodle-like, but we're just gonna do it randomly, I think. Snippy snip. Anyway, my distressing didn't end up looking very good. Okay, I'm kind of scared. I basically just snipped one single strand of yarn, one single piece of yarn, while praying to the yarn gods that I don't wreck this entire project that I just spent hours on. Unraveled it as much as I could handle. Oh, it's already a big hole. That's already humongous. It's very stressful. And then tied together I cut one piece of yarn, but I ended up with like 4 loose strands every time, which was confusing, and my brain just couldn't. It didn't make sense. This one also is gonna unravel. Oh, this also is gonna unravel. Holy goodness. I cut one string. Calm down. Obviously, it would have looked better if I like wove in the strands, but I don't trust myself to be able to have done that well enough for it not to just unravel whilst I wear it or whilst it is in the wash. And I'm not hand washing anything, okay? I contemplated hand washing this shirt because I want to keep it nice. I've been wearing this every single day since... This might look stupid. I'm gonna have to be okay with that. And then I guess I can just weave these through so that there's not random strings hanging. This is my first hole that I made. Gonna do 2 or 3 more in various places. Anyway, this is the final look. I kept it shorter because I was scared to use too much yarn, although I ended up with a lot left over. Also, I was going to LA, so I figured it'd be hot. It wasn't, but I thought airflow was a good idea. And also, I'm lazy, and I started this a week before the concert, so time was not on my side. And now that I've completed an entire knit project, I can share some thoughts about whether I prefer knit or crochet, because I'm a master now. I'm also cold, if you can't tell. I only had 4 balls of yarn. I had 2 of the green and 2 of the black. I only used just over 1 of each. So this took 2 balls of yarn. I don't remember the yardage, but it's not very much. If I crocheted this, like I was scared I was gonna run out of yarn the entire time because I'm used to like, the crochet just like eats up the yarn like crazy. Also, knitting is a lot less chunky. I would prefer to wear stuff like this. Chunky stuff is not comfortable for me. Crocheting is a lot easier to fix. Like if you want to fix a mistake in knitting, you're going back every single stitch, or if it's like rows below and you have to undo it, like for me undoing the sleeves, I just ripped out everything to the row that I wanted it and then very, very carefully stuck my needle through every single loop. Whereas with crochet, you just freaking rip it out. It doesn't matter. There's one loop. It's not gonna unravel your whole project. It's not as terrifying. Crocheting is faster because I guess the rows in knitting are they're less tall. You're gonna be doing more rows unless you just want to use a bigger needle and have holier fabric. Crochet feels a lot more customizable, or like easily customizable. Like I wouldn't knit a like amigurumi stuffy. I made these light sticks last week and I wouldn't knit this. I mean, I'm not talented enough to knit this yet, but I don't even think knitters would knit it. Crochet is just a lot easier to do all this wonky stuff. Both were super easy to change colors. Both were super easy to pick up, and they're both super, well, not super cheap. It depends what, it depends. Like all you need is yarn, needles, or hooks. They're both relatively cheap. Though knitting does require extra needles or at least something to put project pieces on if you're not gonna cast them off right away. I watched a video where someone had this giant safety pin, which looked cool. When you're knitting, you don't really have to look as much as crochet, because crochet you have to like make sure your hook's going in the right hole, whereas knitting you're just like so if I had to choose between the two, I would choose knitting for clothes because it's nicer. As I've said multiple times, I don't wear anything that I make. I wore this though. And then I prefer crochet for probably any other project just because it's simpler, faster. But I actually enjoy knitting more, I think, because not only does it give me cozy granny vibes, but I can pay more attention to what I am watching while I'm knitting. You made it to the end! Here's a cookie! Hope this is helpful for you if you are trying to figure out whether or not you should start knitting. Just do it! Bye!